Hello everyone and welcome back for another video. This is Bora. Today we're going to talk about the 5 new D-clone items that they added in Season 2. So I don't know if you guys were privy to this information. They did, before the season started, they announced that they were going to add these super rare items to the game. The only people, or the only unit that can drop it is D-clone. And it has a 1 in 200 drop rate. So they did tease what the items were going to be. A pair of boots, a claw, a sword, a helm, and an armor. But they did not give any stats. They didn't tell you what bases they were going to be. They didn't tell you, what the mods on the piece of gear was going to be. So now all of that information is available because people have basically been using single-player pluggy to just run D-clone over and over and over, and all of these items have now been found. And so all the stats are revealed. So I'm going to go through them, and I'm going to start with the one that I like least. Now, that all said, all 5 of these items are very strong. They did say that they didn't want to make these items game-breaking in any way. I do think that they've done a good job at that. These items, while good, are not extremely overpowered, which I like. But I mean, that said, they're all very strong. They all have their place in the game. Some of them I feel are just objectively best of slot for certain classes and certain builds. So we will jump right into that. Now, guys, if you do like my content, please drop a like on the video and subscribe to my channel. I will just continue to pump out content. Up next for me, I will be doing a Boson video. I've been getting a lot of people asking for another Boson video for Season 2. And I'm actually going to do a video that just hard breaks down Bariza versus Windforce. I get a ton of questions. Hey, is Windforce better than, is Bariza better than Windforce? Best corruption available, all that kind of stuff. I will answer that question in my next video. And of course, if you guys ever want to come just hang out with me, ask me some questions, do some live gameplay, stop by my Twitch channel, which is Bora Gaming D2. And anytime I'm playing and my game isn't full, if there's a slot, just ask me for the game name and password, and you can come game with me. Obviously, I'm playing pretty casually at this point, so more than happy to play with you guys. So let's jump into this. So my least favorite of these 5 items is the armor. So this is the Diablo clone armor, and obviously, looking at it, the 2 main stats to call out, +2 skills and 50 faster cast rate. Super, super strong. And honestly, something that can't be overlooked is the mana after each kill and life after each kill. A lot of those extreme fast FCR builds that could utilize this armor do kind of struggle with mana in a lot of situations. So the mana after each kill can't really be overlooked. Cold stack, obviously super nice. And here's a theme that they've kind of done to almost all of these items. Not all of them, but they've added a penalty here, and this one is -50 fire res. This is the steepest penalty of any of the items, and it's not life changing, but it doesn't feel too good. So the other thing that I don't love about this is the base that they've chosen. And, again, they're trying to make these items not too overpowered. So I think I understand the choice behind using a lacquered plate. They've already baked 20 minus requirements into it. But all told, this strength requirement is still quite high. So I think, part of the argument is they obviously had to use an armor type that did not already have a unique item for that type. Archon plate, for instance, does not have a unique armor. So they could have used that, and then the strength requirement, I think, for an Archon plate is 103. Would have been a lot more manageable. But like I said, that might be a little too strong. And so, when you think about what they've done in PD2, they've basically removed that notion of, timed skills. So, you used to only be able to cast Frozen Orb after a certain time. Like you could cast one and then you had to wait and you could cast another. And this that was the same thing with Meteor and with Blizzard and all that kind of stuff. And they've removed that premise of timed skills. So now those abilities at high faster cast rate levels are very, very strong. So they've removed the timer from Frozen Orb. They've actually changed it so for Frozen Orb it uses the same faster cast rate breakpoints as a lightning source, which it doesn't really come into play until you used to just need 105 faster cast rate for the breakpoints, but for Frozen Orb you now need 117, which is consistent with the lightning. For every sorceress, though, the maximum breakpoint is 200. So hypothetically, this armor is very strong for every sorceress build that's out there. So if you play Frost Nova, Nova, Meteor, Blizzard, Frozen Orb, this is a very, very strong armor for you. The biggest drawback, obviously, is the strength requirement. So that's the only like downfall. And then for other caster builds, this is amazing as well. If you play a Holy Bolter, you will find that it's quite difficult to hit 125 faster cast rate. So this would obviously get you there. And then for those other, for the non-sorceress caster builds, the strength isn't as much as of an issue. You might be in this area already if you're playing a paladin or a druid or like a mind blast assassin or something like that. You might be kind of in this area, and therefore the high strength requirement won't bother you so much. But for the sorceress, this one feels a little bit high. Now, again, I understand why they had to do it. I do think it would probably be a little bit too strong if it weren't for the high strength requirement. Now, the other reason that I've rated this one a little bit lower is that this item kind of has alternatives, whereas the others don't. The alternative to this is to use, for instance, a Viper Magi that has a 10 FCR slam on it, which would then give you +1 skills, 40 FCR, 30 all res. You can puzzle box it for 2. And because it's less rare, and this is something that we haven't talked about yet, but because these items are so rare, the chance of finding it and getting a great corruption are obviously a lot lower. Like if you got 3 open socket on this Dark Abyss armor, it would be so good because you could afford to put a minus requirement jewel in there. Obviously when you play these elemental caster builds, you want facets everywhere you can. So maybe you would just throw 1 minus rec jewel in here and then 2 facets. And then this would hands down be the best in slot armor for basically any caster build. So anyway, you have the Viper Magi, and because they're less rare, like you can buy them and you can like take chances at puzzling it. Like you're more likely to get a 2-socket 40 FCR Viper Magi, or the other alternative would be an Atma's Whale, which also has +1 skills. You can also get 40 faster cast rate, 2 open socket. Those items are going to be, a lot more achievable to get in a season than this is, and they're not that much worse. Like Atma's Whale is good for max block builds, Viper Magi is good for when you need res. This one obviously has a pretty steep fire res penalty. So while it's still a fantastic armor, this is just my least favorite, just because there are alternatives that aren't that much worse. And like I said, the strength requirement could be a little bit prohibitive for some builds, but like I said, still a great armor. My next least favorite is the sword. So let's just review this sword, and it is incredibly strong. Now, couple things to call out. This is indestructible and therefore cannot spawn ethereal. If this could spawn ethereal, this would be unbelievably strong. Now, the chance of an item dropping ethereal is about 3%, so it's obviously highly unlikely. But one of the people that found that declone armor, actually, it spawned ethereal. So it was funny because they got it on their 4th declone attempt. but they got unlucky with the fact that it spawned ethereal. Anyway, that's a digression. This one cannot spawn ethereal. If it could, it would be way, way too strong. And just for some beginner or kind of intermediate knowledge, when you have an ethereal weapon, it applies 50% enhanced damage to the base of the item. It's not additive. So so let's say you rolled this one with 500 ED. It's not like, oh, now this item has 550 ED. It applies the ED to the base of the weapon, and then subsequent enhanced damage applies afterwards, which is a huge difference. It's multiplicative versus additive, and it makes a very, very big difference. So again, the reason that I don't find this one to be too strong, and again, it would be incredibly strong if it could spawn ethereal, is that there are ethereal options like an Eth Death Cleaver, like Eth Schaefer's or Stone Crusher, or Grandfather for barbs who want to use a one-handed option that make it more in line with this. But anyway, let's not get too hung up on this. Let's keep going through the mods. 30 increased attack speed. That's really nice. This is a Conquest Sword base. Again, a little bit of a questionable base, but there is no Conquest Sword that is unique. So it makes sense why they chose this. When it gets to like a Whirlwind Barb, you don't really care about increased attack speed. But for, if you're to play a Zeal Pally, for instance, then this 30% increased attack speed would be extremely beneficial. 400 to 500 enhanced damage. This is the highest that you can get in the entire game. There is no weapon that you can, pre-corruption, get 500 ED on. 50 maximum damage. I mean, who can say no to that? 500, 850 fire damage. Who cares? Doesn't matter. And because this is a one-handed weapon, if you're using this on a paladin, again, as an example, you are going to, or a paladin or fury druid or rabies, whatever, any type of shapeshifter druid, you're going to be using a shield in the offhand. Because this has plus dexterity, it's just going to help you achieve max block. Dexterity serves two purposes: helps you get max block and adds attack rating when it comes to physical melee builds. Obviously, for a throw barb and a boson, dexterity adds damage. That is not the case with the melee builds. So a very well-rounded set of mods. The one thing that you'll notice that I skipped over is the 25% chance of casting lower resist. Now this one I skipped over for a reason, because I think that this deserves a lot of attention. I think in the context of solo gameplay, this is a weird mod to have. It doesn't benefit you in any way, really. Again, guys, because these are so new and they haven't really been used in practice, I haven't theory crafted all these situations in which this is good. So if I am overlooking something, please put it in the comments below, ideally without calling me an idiot for overlooking something. But in the context of solo gameplay, this is a little bit weird, because it's a physical damage weapon kind of through and through. Again, that 580 or 850 fire damage is relatively inconsequential. Where this comes into play, and I can say this as somebody who is a hardcore mapper. I pushed for 99 last season. I will push again this season. When you have two barbs in your party, you're not too stoked. I'll be completely honest, because you want the one, because they will obviously give the high-level battle order, high-level battle command, and everybody loves that. But when it comes to having two in your party, they're just not the best DPSers, so you don't want two. Now, in an ideal party situation, you have a necromancer who's casting lower resist. Not everybody loves playing necro, because in a lot of cases, curse necro is like a pure support class. You're just following behind, casting multiple curses, and that's pretty much your entire job. Now, this changes that. Again, one of the big changes that they made going into this season is if you whirlwind, you can actually proc these things. So that 25% chance can proc while you whirlwind. That was not the case last season. So they've made that change, and now these things can proc. So if you actually have, a barb with this weapon, And he comes in and he gives you the high-level battle orders, gives you the high-level battle command, and he basically replaces that necromancer. That is incredibly strong, and I don't think that can be overlooked. So in the terms of party gameplay, like, this is a huge contender and something that really, makes Barbs a lot more favorable for group play. Again, for solo gameplay, I don't see the value in it, but if I'm overlooking something, somebody please let me know. Next up would be the claw. Now, honestly, between the claw and the sword, I could change that order. The claw, the only reason I wouldn't like it is just because it only serves one class, obviously. It has the least versatility of all of the items. And therefore, it sits middle of the pack for me, but it could easily move down the list. But that said, the mods are incredibly strong. So again, indestructible, guys, this cannot spawn ethereal. It would be too strong if it could. Here's another proc ability, 30% chance to cast level 20 amp damage. So I'm going to actually circle back to this one. 3 to 4 shadow disciplines, very strong when you think about that tree. You got Shadow Warrior, Fade, Weapon Block, Venom, all those things, Claw Mastery, all those things fall under the Shadow Disciplines. To get a 4 boost up there is really strong, and again, just probably the most well-rounded of the skill trees that this could add to. Because it's the scissors base, again, the base weapon speed isn't super good. It does have it has pretty strong average damage. If you were to look through the claw possibilities, this is among the highest, obviously lower than Warfist. But does have very good average damage. Huge ED on this one. Again, this only falls short to the other Diablo sword that we just looked at in terms of what the most ED you can get on a weapon is at 480, 30 minimum damage. Again, nobody's going to complain about that. I believe this is meant to say 6% to attack rating based on character level. And this will end up being a major boost to attack rating. So if you were having issues with that, then obviously this is just going to serve to support that. And circling back to the penalties on these items, minus 22% vitality. So I can speak this with confidence for Diablo 2 LOD. I don't think that they've changed this, but assassins get 3 HP per level of vitality. Which means you're only losing 66 life here, which, does it change your life? No, not really. It changes your life pool. But anyway, so I'm going to circle back to amplify damage on striking. And so one of the builds that I absolutely loved in LOD was the Whirlwind Assassin. So there is a rune word chaos that you can make that gives your assassin +1 to whirlwind, and therefore you can become that whirlwinding assassin. And there was a couple of applications back in LOD. There was the Ghost Assassin, which utilized both physical whirlwind and traps. You kept the traps a little bit lower level, but they still did healthy damage, and this was more for PvP, just to clarify. They did healthy damage, and they put your enemies into hit recovery mode, which then you would get on top of them, with either, most people used Enigma, so you would teleport in, and then you would whirlwind on top of them. So that was one of the ways, and then there was another hybrid assassin that was more trap heavy, a lot of trap damage, and then you still had the physical whirlwind component. Same premise for both characters, just one was more heavy on elemental damage, the other was heavier on physical damage. And I loved both of those builds, both of the hybrid assassins. Those were my absolute favorite PvP builds back in LOD. So I love that this has kind of resurfaced that possibility, because I think in PD2, I just, again, every build is viable. You can make everything work, but this makes the Whirlwind Assassin legitimately strong. And so I like I said, I love that this kind of brought it back and brought it into prominence. That said, that maybe that created a bit of bias for my ranking here, because this probably deserves like a 4 ranking just because of how unversatile it is. But all told, I think this is a great one as well. So, number 2, and this was a hard choice between number 2 and number 1. this helm. This helm is so good for every physical build. So this is great for a boson. This is great for any frenzy, whirlwind barb, whatever. And this is great for zeal pally. Again, any physical damage dealing build. This is going to serve you greatly. Now this is in the giant conch. Only 142 strength, which no build that would wear this is going to struggle with that. Even a boson, for instance, you need 134 strength for wind force, which also gives 10 strength. You don't have to invest any additional points to wear this helmet. So this has very high life leech. Love it. This has minus to enemy physical resist. Like this is like the equivalent of having facets in your helmet for a physical character. You can't find this on many things. Like it's on Halberd's Reign, which is a barb only helm. By the way, if you play barb, check out that helmet. It's very strong. You can find this on soul drainers. But basically, there's not many opportunities to get this minus enemy. It's on a couple of weapons as well, just to be clear. This is a mod that's pretty hard to come by and super strong. Now, this obviously doesn't have any enhanced damage baked into it, but because it has this minus enemy physical resistance, kind of replaces the need for that. Again, with a very good corruption, this helm would be bonkers. If you got 3 open socket in this, and you could put, ED IS jewels or ED strength or ED dex jewels in this, like this helm would be so sick. 460 to 680 defense. Again, this doesn't matter so much for a boson, but for a barb, if you're using shout, for a pally, if you're using holy shield, obviously this is going to boost your defense kind of into the stratosphere. And then huge stats, 20 strength, 15 dex, 15 vita, and then here's that penalty again, 30 energy. Who cares? Doesn't matter. Those, like the builds that would use this helm are largely unaffected. I mean, for a boson, mana leech is baked right into multi-shot, and the mana cost of multi-shot is like 3 or 4 or something like that. So you're not too worried about losing the energy. Same goes for the Zealer or for the Whirlwind Barb. Like you're not going to feel this. So all told, this one is a great one. I would probably have rated this number 1, but again, it only serves the physical damage build. Whereas I do think that what's left, the boots, is a little more versatile. Anyway, so let's jump into that one. So my favorite of them all is the boots, and the reason for me liking this over the others is simple. These are the only boots in the game with faster cast rate. Do I love that it's a mirrored boot and that the strength requirement is quite high? Again, for those caster builds, those 200 FCR sorceresses, for instance, getting to this level might hurt a little bit. But the benefit there is this actually has huge stats on it. So if you were to get a good roll, 20 dex and 20 vita, and like the nice thing about this is that it does not have plus strength. So as a general principle, in this game, you don't want your highest strength requirement item to have plus strength, because in a lot of situations that just becomes wasted stat points. So this obviously has no plus strength. It has dex, which will help you increase your block chance for those casters out there, and vitality, which just adds to survivability, obviously going to give you additional life. So in terms of drawbacks for this item, again, mirrored boot, high strength requirement, and it only has 20 faster run walk. Does that really matter? No. But, as UMF, and let's say you're doing hundreds of runs every day, like how fast you move around town, really equates to MF speed at the end of the day. So would I have liked to see this with 30 on them? Sure. But otherwise, doesn't really matter. The one thing I didn't mention is the defense. This is largely inconsequential. Like, I'm not going to call it a wasted mod. Would you like to see something else there? Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, if you could slam CBF on these or mana after each kill, these would be super sick for those 20 FCR builds, which largely are kind of what boots do you use for those? Like, of course, you can use like Trex or War Travs or Silk Weaves, because Silk Weaves have mana after each kill, which again supports a lot of these builds. But all told, these are 100% best in slot for casters, which I don't think you can say for literally, like irrespective of corruptions. If you get great corruptions on those other 4 items, they are going to be best in slot in a lot of situations. These ones, out of the box, are best in slot for any caster build. That's how I view it anyway. Yeah, like I said, you can't get FCR on boots. Even if you craft boots, you can't get FCR. So there's literally no alternative to these boots. And, there's tons of people playing casters right now. Again, they've been buffed. They've removed that timing aspect from these caster builds. And look, hitting 200 FCR is very, very hard for some of these builds. Like in a lot of cases, you need FCR slams. You need a 30 FCR rack, which is super expensive. You need that FCR SOJ, which is very expensive. Like getting to 200 FCR is a challenge for a lot of these builds. This makes it so much easier. So that's why I've rated it number 1. But all told, let's have a discussion about it, guys. Everybody, let me know in the comments down below what your order would be, which one you hope you can get your hands on this season. Now, I think one of the good things that they avoided was having all of these serve one build, or having it be some super set, like a barb that could wear all 5 of these and is all of a sudden like indestructible. I'm glad they walked away from that notion, and they rounded this out nicely. There's something for casters, there's something for physical. Arguably there is 2 things per. You got the sword and the sword and the helmet would be great for any of those physical damage builds. The claw and the helmet would be great for a whirlwind assassin, for instance. And then the boots and the armor would be great for any caster build. So they've done a good job spreading the love. Again, they didn't make these items game-breaking, which I'm very glad about. They are very strong. They're exceedingly rare, and it'll be super interesting to see how many of these even pop up during the season. My boy Lucky Luciano, who's been running D-Clone all day long, every day, he's definitely done more than 200, and last time I checked, he had not found any of these items yet. So we'll see how many pop up, and we'll see what corruptions, if people are ballsy enough to slam these, we'll see what corruptions people get on them. So really excited to see what's going to happen there. Again, guys, let's have a discussion down in the comments. I do try to respond to each and every comment. So this is me signing off. If you have any questions, reach out to me on Discord, Bora, B-O-R-A, #7700, or stop by my stream, twitch.tv/BoraGamingD2. If you want to ask questions, if you want to play some games with me, let me know, and I'll certainly get you in there. So guys, again, Bora signing off, and I'll see you next video. Cheers.